Good morning. Lovely to see you again this morning. I hope you're well. We move on today to the last little passage in chapter 10 of Luke, verses 38 to 42, which is the story about Martha and Mary. Martha and Mary were, and their brother Lazarus, of course, were very good friends of Jesus. They appear several times in the Gospels, in John's Gospel particularly, and also here. They lived at Bethany, and they lived in a house, the three of them, it seems, and they were quite well-to-do folk, I think, because they often had Jesus and his disciples to their place for a meal. And this story has been preached on endlessly, I'm sure. Martha and Mary, the Lord coming and teaching in their home. The likelihood is that there was a meal, and because Martha was serving, distracted with much serving, and Jesus started talking, and Mary got caught up in listening to what Jesus was saying rather than in helping Martha serve and get, I presume that involved cooking and tending. They may not have had servants. I don't know if they did, if they were that well-to-do. But Martha was involved in, it's quite a thing if you have 12, 13, 14 people come into your home as extras for a meal. It's quite something to put a refreshment out for them and to make sure that each one is attended to. And for Mary and Martha, Jesus was a very special person. And they wanted to honour him. They wanted to treat him well. And I can see both points of view. I'm sure you can. Martha wanting desperately that everything be done just right for this wonderful person and his friends who had come to eat in your house. They'd honoured your house with his presence. He'd come into their house, and she wanted everything to be perfect. I don't know if she had any warning that he was coming. She may have been, as some of us are, a bit frantic that he came in and the place they hadn't done the tidying up they meant to do, and they hadn't swept it through, and it wasn't what it ought to be, and here was the master coming into the house. I know if we get warning that we've got visitors, we do have a bit of a tidy up. I know a friend of mine who used to have a Bible study came to our house every fortnight, and I remember us saying to her, do you want this meeting to move from home to home? It's a bit much for you to have it every fortnight. She said, no, please have it every fortnight, because it makes me tidy up. It makes me have a clean round and to sort things out and keep the place tidy. Otherwise, I wouldn't. And she was glad of the spur to tidy her place up because visitors were coming in. And Martha was like that. And I'm sure Mary, to begin with, was involved in, as soon as they realised that the master was coming with his friends, to make sure that they were all comfortable where they were seated and that they had refreshment and so on. And then Mary got caught up listening to Jesus, and Martha got so frustrated with this, so irritated by it. And she says to the Lord, do you not care that my sister's left me to serve you alone? Tell her then to help me. Quite a reasonable request. And Jesus says, Martha, Martha, you are anxious and troubled about many things. One thing is needful. Mary has chosen the good portion, which shall not be taken away from her. Now, I don't think the Lord is saying that keeping your house tidy and looking after things well is a bad thing. I don't think he's saying that at all. But I think what he's saying is that while he was there in the house, everything else could be left. And listening to him was actually the most blessed thing that either of the ladies could have done. And he knew how important his visits were to people's homes. And I am convinced that Jesus did not look at the dust on the shelf where the ornaments were. He wouldn't even have noticed it. He was that kind of guy, wasn't he? He wouldn't have noticed it. And this story just says to us, what are our priorities? Where do our priorities lie? What are the important things in our day-to-day life? So the question is asked, suddenly someone needs something, or we're asked to help somebody doing something, and it's going to interfere with what we have planned for the day. How readily will we put down what we planned in order to love our neighbour as ourselves? See, this follows straight on from the Good Samaritan story, and it is the outworking of who is my neighbour is shown in this story. I don't think it's a mistake that Luke put it next in line, because in the one story the Samaritan was on his way. We don't know what kind of a schedule he was on. He may have had an appointment he was going to. He may not have had time to stop and help this poor man who'd been abused, and he spent time. He even stayed overnight with him at the inn to make sure that he was all right before he went on. We don't know what kind of inconvenience that put him to, but he was ready to do it. And we have to have this readiness in our hearts to put down things that are important to us if a need arises, to be able to meet our neighbour's need as we would like our neighbour to meet ours if it came to it. And it is this story for Mary and Martha is all about priorities. Where are our priorities? Are we too busy in our life to sit at the feet of Jesus and gaze into his face and rest with him? We can be too busy to listen, to heed, to meditate, to pray. My thought for the day. See you tomorrow. I hope you're blessed today. Bye-bye.